divine, who understood breath as something more radical. The meeting place of God and man, the border between Nasut and Lahut, the material and the celestial. Breath, they taught, is the only bridge we can walk upon consciously. We do not choose when our heart beats. We do not will our blood to flow. But the breath exists in that liminal space between the voluntary and involuntary, between will and surrender. It is both autonomic and controllable, both unconscious and conscious. It is, in the language of Carl Jung, a symbol of the self, that unifying principle that reconciles all opposites, that marries the ego to the unconscious, the temporal to the eternal. Modern neuroscience confirms what the mystics always knew, that breath directly alters brain chemistry, shifts neural oscillations, modulates the autonomic nervous system. When we breathe slowly, we activate the vagus nerve, triggering what researchers call the rest and digest response. When we breathe rapidly, we summon the sympathetic system, the realm of fight or flight. But the Sufis were not interested in mere relaxation. They sought Hal, ecstatic states where the boundaries of self dissolved, where consciousness expanded beyond the prison of individual identity. They used breath not as a tool for calming, but as a blade for cutting through the veils of illusion. This is not self-help. This is alchemy. And like all alchemy, it begins with the prima materia, the raw, unrefined substance. In this case, you. The you that suffers. The you that yearns. The you that has forgotten how to breathe. Listen now to the opening lines of Rumi's Masnavi, that ocean of meaning disguised as poetry. Listen to the reed, how it tells a tale, complaining of separations, saying, "Ever since I was parted from the reed bed, my lament has caused man and woman to moan. I want a bosom torn by severance, that I may unfold the pain of love desire." The reed flute, hollow and empty, produces music only because it has been cut from its source, because it has been emptied of its pith. The Sufis saw in this a mirror of the human condition. We are reeds, severed from the divine reed bed, and our breath, the air moving through our hollow bodies, is the sound of that separation, the eternal lament of the soul in exile. But here is the secret. The reed does not lament silently. It sings. The pain of separation becomes the substance of beauty. This is what Jung called individuation, the painful process by which the unconscious contents are made conscious, by which the fragmented psyche is integrated into wholeness. The reed must be cut, must be hollowed, must be pierced with holes. Only then can breath pass through it and become song. In Jungian terms, the cutting of the reed represents the nigredo, the blackening, the death of the ego's illusions, the descent into the shadow. We resist this cutting. We cling to our solidity, our false sense of completeness. But the breath demands hollowness. To breathe fully is to acknowledge the empty space within us, the wound that will never fully heal, the existential severance that defines human consciousness. The alchemists knew this. In their laboratories, they spoke of solva et coagula, dissolve and coagulate, break down and rebuild. The breath is the solvent. With each inhale, we coagulate, we gather energy, we become. With each exhale, we dissolve, we release, we surrender. The oscillation between these two states is not breathing, it is becoming. It is the rhythm of transformation itself. Modern man, suffocating in his cities of steel and glass, has forgotten how to be hollow. He fills himself with noise, with stimulation, with constant doing. He mistakes fullness for fulfillment. But the mystics teach otherwise. Only the empty cup can receive. Only the hollow reed can sing. Only the surrendered breath can carry you beyond the narrow confines of ego, into the vast, terrifying freedom of the self. In the Naqshbandi tradition, one of the most rigorous Sufi orders, breath is divided into 4 sacred movements, 4 stations on the path of return. These are not merely physical stages, but spiritual territories, each corresponding to a state of consciousness, a degree of awakening. The first station, the inhale, gathering the scattered self. When you breathe in, you draw the world into your body. Oxygen, yes, but also baraka, blessing, the subtle energy that the Sufis say permeates all existence. The inhale is an act of gathering, of calling back all the dispersed fragments of attention that we scatter throughout the day like seeds in the wind. In Jungian psychology, this is the work of integration, retrieving the projections we cast onto others, recognizing in the external world the disowned parts of ourselves. Attar, in his Conference of the Birds, tells of the hoopoe bird who gathers 30 other birds to seek the mythical Simurgh. They journey through 7 valleys of quest, of love, of knowledge, of detachment, of unity, of bewilderment, and finally, of annihilation. The inhale is the beginning of that quest, the Jiao collection of the scattered flock of thoughts, feelings, and sensations into a single point of awareness. The second station, the pause after inhale, the moment of fullness. At the crest of the inhale, there is a pause, a suspension between worlds. The lungs are full. The body is saturated. This is Barzakh, the liminal space the Sufis speak of, the border between this world and the next, between becoming and being. Here for a single moment you are complete. Nothing is lacking. This is the alchemical albedo, the whitening, the glimpse of the self in its pristine nature before the ego reconstitutes its defenses. But we cannot remain here. The breath demands movement. To cling to fullness is to invite suffocation. The mystics warn against spiritual pride, against the seeker who mistakes a temporary state for a permanent station. The pause is beautiful, but it is not the destination. It is the